I could feel Hank's eyes drilling into the side of my face as I walked into his office. He didn't say a word at first, just pointed at the chair like I was some damn intern. The air was thick with tension, and I knew exactly what was coming. What I didn't know was how low he'd actually go. "My name's Alan Mercer. I'm 42. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd been working under Hank Sullivan for 7 years. When I started, we were just a small regional office. Now we were statewide, and a hell of a lot of that growth was because of me. I brought in big accounts, built the team from scratch, and stayed late while Hank played golf with the execs. I did the work. He took the bows. "Let's make this easy, Alan," Hank said finally, his voice smooth, like he was doing me a favor. He slid a paper across the desk. "You've been thinking about other opportunities, right? We figured we'd help you formalize it." I picked up the paper. It was a resignation letter, already typed up, dated today, signed with my name, blank, waiting for me to fill in. The wording was clean, professional, full of phrases like moving on to new challenges and grateful for the opportunities. "You serious with this?" I asked, staring him down. He leaned back, laced his fingers together, and gave me that smug half smile he always wore when he thought he was the smartest guy in the room. "Come on, Alan, your numbers have slipped. You've lost your edge. Let's not drag this out." I clenched my jaw. Yeah, my numbers were down, but so was everyone else's. The market was shrinking, competition was insane, and leadership wasn't adapting. And Hank? He'd been siphoning credit off my ideas for years. That new Southeast expansion strategy? Mine. He presented it to corporate like he dreamed it up over brunch. I looked back at the letter, my throat tightened. This company had cost me birthdays, anniversaries, vacations I never took. Diane had stood by me through all of it. And now, I was getting shown the door like some underperformer. "I've got 2 options," Hank said, leaning in. "Sign it now and leave on your own terms, or don't, and I'll make a couple calls. This industry's small. You won't get another offer, not around here." That was it. No warning, no severance talk. Just do this, or I bury you. My hand reached for the pen, fingers trembling with rage. But just as I touched it, something inside me shifted. I didn't just sign the resignation letter, I changed one word. I slid the letter into my bag and walked out of Hank's office without another word. My legs felt stiff, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual, like the universe wanted me to stew in it just a little more. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the sky was a dull gray, like it couldn't decide whether to rain or not. Diane was in the kitchen, already halfway through prepping dinner, something with garlic and onions. I could smell it the second I opened the door. She looked up. "Hey, how'd it go?" I kissed her on the cheek and muttered, "Fine, just another Hank day." Her eyes narrowed. She knew that meant something was wrong. I kept moving before she could press. I walked down the hall into my office, shut the door, and locked it. Pulled the letter from my bag and laid it flat on the desk. My edit stood out like a slap across the face. Constructive dismissal due to hostile work environment. One phrase, just enough to say, "I'm not going quietly." My heart was still pounding, but I knew it was the right move. The way Hank cornered me, tried to make it all seem voluntary. He was getting sloppy. But the moment that letter left my hands, there was no turning back. Diane knocked once. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah," I called back. "Just need a minute." She paused like she wanted to say more, then walked away. I sat down and stared at the letter for a while, my fingers tapping against the desk. I wasn't scared of a fight, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't feeling it. 7 years in that place, and I was one meeting away from being blacklisted. My phone buzzed just after 9. Unknown number. I picked up. "Alan, it's Eleanor. Just wanted to check in." "Perfect timing. I read your draft. That change, it opens the door. We're not just talking severance anymore. We're talking a legal case." "You really think we can do this?" "If what you've told me is accurate, and if we've got the records to back it up, this isn't just a complaint. It's a pattern. Retaliation, misconduct. We could be looking at a serious claim." I let that sit for a second. My hand tightened around the phone. "What's next?" "I'll draft the formal complaint. You deliver your version of the resignation to HR tomorrow. After that, I handle everything." "All right. I'll call you after I drop it." She hesitated. "Alan, once this starts, it moves fast. You ready for that?" I looked down at the letter one more time. My gut twisted, but I nodded like she could see me. "Yeah, I'm ready." I didn't sleep much, maybe 2, 3 hours, tops. My mind wouldn't shut up, kept circling back to that line on the letter and how it was going to land once it hit the right desk. By 7:30, I was dressed and pacing the kitchen, waiting for the coffee to finish brewing. Diane handed me my travel mug and kissed my cheek. "Good luck today," she said. "You look sharp." I gave her a half smile. "Thanks." She didn't ask questions. I think she knew not to. Outside it was cold, bright, and way too quiet for a Thursday. I met Eleanor at a coffee shop near the office, a corner booth tucked away from the windows. She had 2 folders already open when I sat down. "We stick to the plan," she said. "Keep emotion out of it. Stick to facts. You've documented everything. Use it." I nodded and pulled out my own folder. Emails from Hank with his backhanded threats, financial reports I flagged, meeting memos where my name was scrubbed from final decks. Months of crap, finally on paper. "Drop this in HR's lap," she said, flipping through the pages. "Let them take the first swing. If they try to force you out again, it strengthens our case." I didn't say much. My mouth was dry. My hands kept tapping against my thigh. "You sure you're good?" she asked. I looked her in the eye. I've never been more sure. Back at the office, I walked through the front doors like it was any other day, but the energy was off. Heads turned, conversation stopped when I passed. I caught a few looks, curious, cautious, maybe even nervous. They knew something was coming. They just didn't know what. I spent the next 2 hours at my desk, printing everything, organizing the files, labeling each item by date. I didn't talk to anyone, just focused. I had one shot to make this stick. By 10:45, I was standing outside HR, folder in hand. My heart was pounding so loud, I thought the receptionist could hear it. Imani opened the door herself. "Alan, come in." I stepped inside, handed her the sealed envelope, and sat down across from her. She didn't open it, just looked at the label and nodded. "We'll get this sorted," she said, calm as ever. I looked at her, trying to read her face. No panic, no surprise, like she'd seen this coming the whole time. "Appreciate it," I said, standing up. As I walked out, I passed by the front lobby. The doors opened, and there was Hank, strutting in like he owned the damn building. But this time, I didn't look away. Hank didn't say a word when we crossed paths, just kept walking like nothing was happening. But I saw the tightness in his jaw. He knew. By Wednesday morning, the meeting request was sitting in my inbox. Mandatory sit-down with HR and senior leadership. No details, no agenda, just a time, 11:06 a.m. I stared at the screen, my stomach twisting. This was it. Either they were going to fire me clean, offer me hush money, or try to bluff their way through it. I wasn't bluffing, not anymore. I walked into the HR conference room a few minutes early, long glass table, bottled water lined up like it was some corporate summit. Hank was already there, arms crossed, fake calm expression plastered on his face. Beside him sat Imani, and across from them, Martin, the company's legal counsel. He never showed up unless things were getting serious. "Alan, thanks for coming," Imani said. I sat down without responding. Just waited. Martin started. "We've reviewed the materials you submitted. There are some serious concerns, but we want to address them constructively." Hank cut in before he could finish. "Some of these numbers are way off. The Southeast vendor discrepancies, that was from the old procurement system. We've already fixed those issues internally." I didn't flinch. "You fixed them after I flagged them. And the inflated service invoices, those aren't system errors. They're signed off by you, Hank." He leaned forward. "You're reaching." "No, I'm connecting dots you left behind." Martin cleared his throat. "We're still reviewing the documentation, but at this stage, we're assuming these irregularities were unintentional, possibly overlooked during expansion." I shook my head. "You think it's normal for one department to run double billing for 6 months without anyone noticing? You think a regional manager signing off on ghost vendor contracts is just an oversight?" No one spoke, just paper shuffling and throat clearing. I let it hang there. "So you're saying none of this is suspicious to you?" The silence was deafening. Hank looked away first. That was all I needed. I stood. "Let me know what you decide. I'll be in my office." I walked out without waiting for a response. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. Adrenaline. I didn't just hold my ground, I put them on the defensive. My phone buzzed as I stepped into the hallway. "Eleanor, I answered. Yeah? You just left the room? Yeah. They tried to act like it was all clerical mistakes. They won't be able to hold that line for long. I just got word. 3 employees reached out today. 2 from your team, 1 from legal. They've seen things. They're ready to talk. I stopped walking. Looks like you're not the only one who's had enough, she said. I slid my phone back into my pocket and stood there for a second, letting Eleanor's words sink in. People were stepping up. Finally. By the time I got back to my desk, the energy in the office was completely different. I walked past Janice in marketing. She gave me a nod and a quick smile. Same with Brandon from IT. Even Kelly, who usually avoided me like I had a contagious disease, made eye contact and held it. They all knew. Maybe not the details, but enough to recognize something had shifted. I sat down and barely had time to open my inbox before Theo from accounting tapped my cubicle wall. You got a minute? He asked. Yeah. What's up? He stepped in, lowered his voice. Look, I've seen some of the stuff you've flagged, vendor payments, expense reports. I always thought it was off, but I didn't want to get involved. I nodded slowly. No one did. He scratched the back of his neck. I've got some old spreadsheets and reconciliation notes, things I was told not to save. I kept copies. I blinked. You serious? He looked me dead in the eye. Yeah, I've had them tucked away, just in case. I'll send them over tonight. I didn't say thank you. I just gave him a look he understood. It wasn't about me. It was about not letting Hank get away with it anymore. After Theo left, I got a message from Darnell in logistics, then Maria in compliance. One by one, little check-ins, quiet, careful, but clear. They were watching, and now they were talking. It wasn't loud, not yet, but it was enough. The hush that used to follow me had turned into something else. The whispers weren't about what I'd done. They were about what Hank might have done. That change in direction was everything. I walked past the break room on my way to refill my coffee. 2 directors were in there, mid-conversation, and stopped when they saw me. I raised my brow, kept walking. 10 feet later, I heard one of them say under his breath, "He's not gonna make it through this." They weren't talking about me. I didn't sleep the night before the meeting. I didn't even try. My mind kept circling the same thought. How bad would it have to get before they stopped protecting Hank? By 8 a.m., I was walking into the main conference room. Long table, 12 chairs, projector on, windows shut tight. Imani was already there, flipping through a thick binder. Martin sat beside her, looking like someone had shoved lemon juice in his coffee. Then the CEO walked in, Alan Traeger. I'd only met him twice before. He didn't shake my hand this time. He got right to it. We've brought in external investigators. They've confirmed financial misconduct tied to several vendor accounts. No small talk, no games. I kept my face neutral. Inside, my blood was pounding. Martin added, "The documentation you provided helped guide the initial review. That being said, we're still evaluating internal accountability." Still evaluating. Sure. Then Imani said, "Hank Sullivan has been placed on administrative leave effective immediately." I didn't blink. I didn't gloat. I just waited. Traeger leaned forward. "We're considering a restructure. There's a temporary task force forming to clean this up. Compliance, oversight, vendor management. We'd like you to lead it." I looked at him. "That come with a gag order?" Martin jumped in. "We'd prefer if internal discussion stayed internal. No public statements, no media involvement." I laughed under my breath. "Let me get this straight. You want me to help clean up a mess I didn't make, lead a team I wasn't supposed to be on, and in return, I stay quiet while you protect your own asses?" No one said anything. "I'm not interested in cleaning this up behind closed doors. You want my help? This goes public. Transparency, reporting, everything." Traeger's jaw clenched. "That's negotiable." I stood up. "Then start negotiating." I walked out. Didn't wait for a reply. As I headed back to my desk, people looked at me differently. Not like I was radioactive anymore. Not like I was crazy. Like I was right. Like I'd cracked something wide open and they were finally seeing it. I heard whispers behind me. My name, the word promotion, and someone even said whistleblower like it was a badge of honor. It wasn't over, not even close. But the first round, I won that one clean. The day the internal memo dropped confirming Hank's dismissal, I read it 3 times just to make sure it was real. There was no ceremony, no announcement, just a quiet line buried halfway down the email. Effective immediately, Hank Sullivan is no longer with the company. That was it. From that point on, everything shifted. You could feel it. Conversations got louder. People weren't whispering anymore. No one was afraid to call things out. The fear that had kept everyone frozen, it was gone. They moved fast after that. A full-blown audit kicked off, and I got pulled into meeting after meeting. Then came the reassignment, official, on paper. I was now in charge of rebuilding the entire financial review process from the ground up. Bigger title, bigger paycheck, more eyes on me. Diane didn't even flinch when I told her. She just nodded and said, "About damn time." Still, it didn't feel like a win at first. I'd worked for years under that man's thumb. Watching him burn didn't erase it, and honestly, I didn't care what happened to him anymore. But word started getting around. He was hiding out, trying to negotiate. Somebody saw him at some corporate legal firm in Atlanta, and the rumors spread fast. By the time the criminal charges hit, no one was surprised. Fraud, obstruction, wire transfers flagged by compliance. The whole mess was finally out in the open. And Hank? He was no longer a name people feared. He was a warning sign. A punchline. The morning of the annual meeting, I got called up to speak. It wasn't planned. Traeger just leaned over during breakfast and said, "You should say something. People need to hear it from you." So I stood up. Room full of execs, managers, employees, faces I'd worked with, fought beside, argued with. I didn't prepare a damn thing. I told them the truth, that I almost walked away, that I was ready to quit because I thought nobody would stand behind me, that people like Hank survive because most of us look the other way. But this time, we didn't. And that's what changed everything. I walked off the stage to silence. Then the applause started. Slow at first, then louder. It wasn't about me. It was about what we survived together. On my way out of the building, someone from legal stopped me in the hallway. "Guess he's the story we tell new hires now." I smirked. "Good, make sure they listen."